Greetings and grand risings. This is Freedom Emmanuel from the Personal Freedom Center and the personalfreedomcenter.com. You can also find me at viviangale.com. My 5 core pathways to personal freedom, which you can find on both my websites, are spiritual, emotional, religious, financial, and physical freedom. And I believe that all men, regardless of their status, their race in life, need a healthy balance in each one of these 5 core pathways in order to live a happy, healthy, and well-balanced life. So as I do my videos, which I'm trying to get back to doing more videos with me personally, in them. So I want to talk to you about each one, a topic in each one of these 5 core pathways. So tonight our topic is called getting the fear out of your processes, and that will fall under the category of spiritual freedom. So when you think about spiritual freedom, I want you to think about the Personal Freedom Center. I want you to think about yourself. I want you to think about what you can learn here when it comes to spirituality and when it comes to processes. Because when you become a more, or when you change your status or correction, that's a very spiritual decision. That's a decision that goes against 80% of the population or more. And it's a decision that says that I decided to stand up for myself, make my own choices in this life, and forge my own path, believing what it makes sense to me. Okay, so I want to talk to those who are doing their processes, who are early on in their processes, or those who have even been doing these processes for a while. I want to vouch for myself and say that doing these processes in the beginning and sometimes now does not come without fear. But you have to feel the fear, but do it anyway. Okay. So I just want to encourage you with 5 points and the reasons why you should continue, and knowing that there's going to be some fear factor involved. Okay. So number 1, these are things that go against what we've ever learned. We've never learned how to discharge debt or declare our nationality, or stand before a court and defend yourself. I mean, it takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of bravery, and it takes a lot of belief, I guess. And sometimes that word, you have to be careful with belief, because belief sort of tends in the majority of our population to fit into a square box, meaning that if you believe X, Y, and Z, then that's all you believe. Okay, so what we're talking about here is what you're choosing to believe, meaning what you're choosing to accept as your truth and to live on it. So that's what belief means in this sense. It was my experience and the conversations that I've had with people and the things that I've witnessed, the situations that I've witnessed from my peers on this journey, and what I feel in some of the conversations that I have when I'm doing my individual coaching sessions. Okay, so I heard people asking a lot of the same questions that I did, like, did you do it? Did it work for you? And I laugh when I hear that. And sometimes, occasionally, I'll find myself asking someone that myself. And then I'll say, oh man, I can't believe I said that. Because there's so many things that can cause a process to succeed. And there's maybe even just one reason that can cause a process to fail. Okay, so in my experience, I can tell you that that it takes a lot of courage, because fear and truth can creep up in anything and everything that you do, and it can hinder all of your dreams, and it can hinder all of your hopes and all of your efforts. Okay, so when you decide to embark on a new journey, right, and fear comes along as your companion, you have to recognize that fear is there. Turn around and speak to that fear and tell that fear to leave you alone. And if that fear is difficult to get rid of, then you go ahead, you feel the fear, you face it, and you do it anyway. Now, a lot of times when fear creeps into situations, it's because you might not be 100% sure about what you're doing. Okay, you might not have studied enough, or you might just be following what somebody advised you to do, and you might just, have gotten a paper from someone, filled it out, and now you're submitting it somewhere, and you're feeling nervous that something might happen that's not favorable. Okay, so this is why you have to study for yourself. You have to study for yourself because if you don't study for yourself, you cannot own your truth, right? You'll be walking around saying, somebody said, or somebody told me, and these are situations that are life changing, or situations that if you do wrong, can get you, in a situation that you might have to work hard or face some legal consequences to get out of. Right, so you really want to start studying for yourself. You don't want to run around relying on other people's opinions, right, or other people's answers or what they've taken. You don't know if they studied it for themselves. You just pass it through the grapevine. I remember things that people have told me in the past that I just took for truth, and then years later found out that it was a mistake. And so I hesitated to make decisions that I should have a little quicker because I listened to what somebody had told me. So when you run to others for answers, and this was my experience in my first year too, I had folders and information from like probably 10 different places, and then I tried to piece together processes, like you gather pieces to a puzzle, a jigsaw puzzle, and you sit there and you try and put them together, and the only difference is the pieces to a jigsaw puzzle actually fit, hopefully, that same puzzle, and that they will create something, that's harmonious in the end. But when you take different pieces from different processes and listen to different teachers, then you're asking for confusion to join you, all right, in your efforts. And so if you don't want confusion to join you in your efforts, then you just need to put aside everything that you've been told, all the information that you gathered. I'm not saying you have to throw it in the garbage, but you can set it aside, and when you get done studying and gathering information for yourself, learning. I don't like the word gathering in this context because now we're talking about you sitting down, you studying the UCC, you studying the laws, and the statutes and the codes and the Constitution, right, and whatever else it may be that comes your way to guide you along your path. House joint resolutions. There's so much. So when you're learning all of these things like the bankruptcy of the United States, the birth certificate fraud, debt discharge, etc., and U.S. codes, it is a lot of learning because we didn't learn these things in school. And if you did, yay, I'm glad for you. So you're ahead of the class. But it's been my experience that I didn't learn these things in school, and I had 6 years of college. So my advice is really to anyone that's on this journey is to follow these 5 steps, all right? And these are steps that I had developed as I was learning to follow my own path. And when I realized that I just had a whole bunch of, puzzle pieces that went to a lot of different processes or just pieces of a process. I've even paid for stuff that I've gotten, and it was so discombobulated that I couldn't even use it. I mean, I couldn't even edit it. It was just horrible. And I spent maybe altogether like a couple of $1,000s on documents, just not willing, to dig down and do all that work. So I want you to remember these 5 points, okay? I'm going to tell you what they are, and then I'm going to break them down a little further. 1 is stop. S-T-O-P. And we all know what stop means, right? It means stop moving and listen to your inner guide and listen to your inner spirit. Study for yourself. All right, this is what I've learned, and this is what I do. I've learned that when I went inside, see, we believe that we are um, um, well, spiritual. We're spiritual at our core, right? So we're spiritual beings that are having a human experience. But what I've learned and what I've experienced as a human being that sometimes has spiritual experience, that is the norm, And so when you even embark on this journey that we're talking about, correcting your status, doing a UCC1 against your corporate entity, doing a UCC1 lien against all your property, your birth certificate, social security, and everything. That takes a lot of bravery. It's a spiritual commitment. It's a spiritual step, right? And you have to be at one with yourself. Okay, I and I. We recently saw the Bob Marley movie, and it was pretty good, and it just really took me back, to what he really stood for. But they said in the movie, I and I means I and I, me and myself and I, me and my spirit, right? So stop. Number one. Two is get quiet, and study for yourself. So you want to set aside everything that you've been told, and you want to start learning from a blank slate. Okay. So I'm not saying take everything you learn and throw it in the garbage, but I don't want you to bring it to the table of your studying saying, no, that doesn't right. It isn't right. It doesn't agree with, what sister so-and-so said or what brother so-and-so said. I want you to look at it for what it is. Evaluate it, break down any word in that you do not understand, any law, any code, or anything. And studying in that way, it can become fun. And also remember that when you get quiet and when you go inside, when you ask questions to yourself, you're talking to your spirit and spirit that dwells in everything in the whole universe. It lives within us. In the Bible and in Scripture, when I grew up, I was taught that the Holy Spirit was an entity outside of you that would lead you and guide you into all truth, right? So what I've learned instead or in addition is that the Holy Spirit or the Spirit, which you can say is holy because it is the Spirit in the essence of the all, right? Of the one God, of the one Creator. And so that Spirit in that essence abides within each and every one of us. And some of us exude it in a greater magnitude because we spend more time with the Spirit, dwelling with, communing with, And so when we come to a place where we are one with our Spirit, it should be manifested in our life outwardly, right? And so when we turn and we seek for an answer, we know that we don't have to go outside, actually, that we can just go inward and look for it, and the answer will come. And you don't even have to look. What I should say is ask. And sometimes the Spirit knows what you need before you even ask. I mean, it becomes obvious to you that the Spirit already knew what you needed before you asked. But you can take this on my word that your spirit or angel guides, whatever you may fancy, your ancestors know, what you need, right, on your journey, right? And so it's going to be present and it's going to be there. But if you have not learned how to tune in, right, like you turn a channel like we used to do, you know, or even if you use a remote, right? And sometimes you can't get a signal, right, because the cable is off or whatever. But I like the old, tuning in antenna that you had to move or, turn the channel and then turn the knob around it to get it just right. And sometimes you might even have that on an old radio. You save no radio for the electricity goes out and you just got to tune it. And that's just how spirit is. We have to tune into spirit, to our spiritual selves, and live from that place, even when we're studying and doing these documents, and especially when we are studying and doing these documents. It's true that sometimes myself feel like I am Harriet Tubman, and she was fighting for freedom. Yeah, and I feel that sometimes in the things that we are doing in different organizations and different um, folks all around the world that are coming together, and standing up against hypocrisy and injustice. And we're doing it in our individual selves, and then collectively, hopefully, we'll find a way to make that happen. When the opportunity presents itself. So the first step is, again, stop. Stop, listen. Stop, get quiet, and listen. Think about all the things that you've experienced over the time that you've been studying and up until that point that you're sitting there and you're getting quiet. Think about all the questions that rose up in your mind and, maybe the additional numerous questions and confusion that they may have caused because you didn't have the whole story, right? And then just think, that's not what I want anymore. I want to process. That can take me from A to Z. Okay. I want harmony. I want to present myself and my documents with a feeling of harmony in them. So when I come to this process and I bring harmony, I bring spirituality, and I know that the Spirit has led me and guided me in the direction that I'm going, then I can go ahead and feel confident when I mail those documents out and while I'm preparing them. And even when something comes along that doesn't fit, my spirit will say, no, it's not for you, or it's not right, or it's not for you now. It's not right for you at all. So when you come and you learn how to tune into spirit and listen every time, practice, in the small things. And I do that. Every once in a while, I want to kick myself because I don't, and I miss it, and then immediately I'm like, yes, you see what happened because you didn't listen, right? And so thankfully it wasn't a big consequence, but they can be. But when you teach yourself how to listen, to that small, subtle voice that tells you, yes, that's right for you, and no, don't do that, then you will be divinely guided, and you know that you were divinely guided and on the right path. Okay, so that's what happens when you listen, right? It's a beautiful thing. It happened for me. I was studying with some Moors in my territory, for a while. I want to say a little, maybe about a year, maybe longer. I'm not sure. I didn't write it down for any reason. And they were studying some things and making some decisions and then I started doing the same paperwork. But then I decided, well, I didn't decide. Spirit decided for me that that was not a process for me to use. And so I set the paperwork aside and I didn't do it. So, again, you have to give up some TV time. You might not get to go out as much as you used to and do the things that you used to spend frivolous time doing, right? Because we don't have a lot of time. You know what's going on in the world today. And if you want to get a remedy, then you're going to have to stop, lending your time and attention to things that really are not important and things that are not going to make a difference for you. I remember early in my 20s, I was watching TV and I think it was the first year I got out of high school. And I was watching General Hospital, and Laura and Luke, were in love, and she was getting married to Luke. And I think Scotty jumped off the balcony, and I was home and I was eating some snacks, and my daughter was sleeping. And then when Scotty jumped off the balcony, and it might be the other way around, she might have been getting married to Luke or Scotty, and then Luke jumped off the balcony. Man, I was so into that. I was so mad. I was so angry, right? And there's just showing off. And I was like, I'll never forget that feeling because I didn't know I was that involved or that I was that engrossed in this TV show, a soap opera. And I honestly, it's something that I do still watch off and on. But I have watched my reactions and how much time and attention that I'm given to these things, and have separated myself from a lot of television watching, a lot of going out, a lot of frivolous, even watching frivolous videos and watching numerous teachers, because that can also confuse you and cause you to waste time that you can be using, finding your own path. So you have to spend your time every day doing habitual things or things that that can point you in a different direction. You know, um, there's a song my father used to sing, "The things I used to do, I just don't do no more, and there are places I just do not go." I remember that song. So, and number 4 is prayer and meditation. Okay, prayer and meditation is so important in our lives. If we don't have prayer and meditation, then we're not in alignment with self. Because, right, self is what we might define as the person who we see in the mirror. And spirit is the entity that we cannot see, that operates and it is infused in every part of our being, right? And so when we are one, with that spirit, then we know that we can trust and on what we are receiving. And we receive that and we become that more by prayer and meditation. Prayer and meditation mean a little different, are done by me a little different today than they were in the past. Um, This is Psalms chapter 1. I'm thinking, oh, blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor sits in the seat of the scornful, but his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law does he meditate day and night. And he shall be like a tree that's planted by the rivers of water, that brings forth his fruit in its season. And it says that his leaf shall not wither, and whatsoever he does shall prosper. Those are great odds there. I'm just saying, if you just follow that chapter, Psalms chapter 1, and change that idea of man to man, people. Blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly. All right. So we can even take that and say, okay, I'm not going to listen to people who are even teachers, which I have encountered, who are rude, who curse the God that I believe in, who curse, just generally in every other word that they use. I'm not choosing, to sit and sup or lend my ear, because that's not what my spirit wants for me. Okay, so when you find a teacher who is on your same level of life, of spiritual discipline, and study, and has morals, and values, then you can sit and you can sup, you can converse, and you can grow together and learn together. I have an empress in my class who we are still connected, and And we can do that, because we fit in all those other areas. So it says, blessed is that person because, you know, they sit, blessed means, but they sit, right? Blessed is man but his delight is in the law of the Lord, right? And so if we just take that word law, right, of the Lord, that's everything. His delight is in the law of everything because the law of Yah is manifested in everything. It's manifested in the words that I'm speaking. It's manifested in my dreadlocks. It's manifested in everything that exists. And he shall be like a tree, and she shall be like a tree that's planted by the rivers of water. Can you imagine, a tree with its roots that are right on the edge of the river? And you can pluck fruit. Now let's take that tree, right? And say, hey, that tree has some good fruit. You might be picking a little further back and you've got some bruised up, some bruised up fruit. And then you start walking a little further and you see this tree planted by the rivers of the water, right? Planted by life flowing, the life-giving waters, right? And then so you drop your old beat up, bruised fruit, and then you go and you pick the fruit that bringeth forth in every season. And that doesn't even have one leaf that is withered. And then it goes on to say, but the ungodly are not so, Okay, but are like the shaft which the wind blows away. And there's some people that you may have known on this walk or journey early on or before, and then you ask about them and nobody knows where they are or what happened to them, right? So prayer and meditation is a wisdom key. It's something that we should always be doing daily, right? In every situation, and it's become a lifestyle for me, and it's because, like I can sense, people's spirits, and energy. And so it makes me more aware of how I'm moving, where I'm going, and how I'm interacting with people. And sometimes I get such a strong negative energy from a certain side of the room, and then I'll go across the room and then turn around, and that same entity that I felt the adverse energy coming from would be looking at me dead in my eyes. This happened to me one time. I was at a casino and I felt like we were having this matrix, kind of fight, and this happened to me once when I was just a teenager walking home from high school. So we have to always be in a state of meditation, and we should, and you don't have to do anything. I'm going to rephrase that. When you train yourself to always be in a meditative state, that means you're always listening and you're always talking and you're always seeking and you're always in the state of being, right? Being is a beautiful word. We are human beings. We're not human doers. And there are times in our lives where we become so much of doers that we forget to just be in everything. You can just be. And it's a beautiful thing. It really is, And then when you feel, yourself getting upset because of something that somebody said, or when somebody does something and you would think to yourself, man, that would have really bothered me in the past. You can just smile inwardly and know, that you're grown and that doesn't bother you anymore, and then you just look on that person with empathy, and you send them love and pray for them in your quiet time that they will find it what it is that their spirit needs, for them to be successful in life and in love and in relationships. So again, like I said, always be watching, always be praying, and always be paying attention to what's in your immediate surroundings. And when you get quiet and you get in spirit, I can guarantee you that the answers that you're seeking and the path that you want to follow or need to follow will show up on your path. This takes practice. It's not going to happen overnight. You can start with the small things, okay? Now, you can also create a special place to pray. I go outside. Nature, is very nurturing for me. And you take that nature, you take out the A and you put in a U, it switches from nature to nurture. So nature is very nurturing. I have never had a day when I went outside for a walk and then come back inside feeling like I've had an experience or that I've had some type of inner cleansing, So when I go outside for my walks or when I go hiking, I take either my guitar with me if it's summer and I've got a couple of hours to spare. But I always take a question, or it's something to ponder while I'm in nature so that I can receive an answer. And occasionally I just go, and remain open and receptive to what there might be for me, So find your special place, whatever that place is for you. In closing, I just want to remind you that once you bring these 5 practices, these 5 spiritual principles or practices or steps into your life, that now you are ready to study. Okay? When you bring again these 5 practices into your life, then now you are ready to study, okay? And then you will find that right mindset. And then you will find that right path. Because there's many paths to take. After you do your nationality or correct your status, right? And you come out of the corporation, right? And this all started for me because I went back to my Bible, dusted it off one day a few years ago, and it was very dusty. I probably could have written my name in it. And I opened up to Revelation 18 and I started reading it again, and it said, "Come out of Babylon, so that you will not receive her plagues." And this is my story. It doesn't make it true for you, but it's what happened to me or for me. And so it said, "Come out of Babylon." And I said, wait a minute. I've read this scripture before, but this is the first time for me, I heard it tell me to do it. And so I started praying and asking. Like, to me, prayer is asking. And so I started asking, well, how do I do that? How do I come out of Babylon? And if I don't, then I'm going to receive her plagues. And it went on to say that her judgment is going to come in 1 hour. And I don't want none of that. I've been studying Revelation, Daniel, since I was 19. So I was reminded. But then this time I was told that it was up to me. Right? And so that's when I learned about correcting your status. I was going to become an American national. Then I learned about the Moors being Aboriginal and Indigenous people. And so then I declared my nationality as a Moorish American. All right, so when you learn to bring these 5 practices into your life, you are now ready to study. You are now ready to fill out your forms. You are now ready to listen to find out what is the correct direction for you, right? Because there's many ways and there's many teachers. But when you can be your own teacher, how awesome is that? When I say you, because you're guided by your spirit and you've opened up, right? It's a beautiful thing. You and your spiritual self are one being. And you're no longer living from the outside in, letting everything on the outside impact you. But now you're living from inside out. You're letting everything inside of you impact everything outside of you, right? So when you become a spiritual being following the spiritual path, those are gifts, or that is a gift. And it's the only gift that you will ever need to learn how to live from the inside, from your spiritual self. and impact the world on the outside. All right. So, namaste, ashe, peace and blessings, Yeshua, the Most High, Allah, whoever it is and however it is for you, let that be so. And I want to remind you, and this is one of my favorite new closings, is to know who you are, love who you are, and be who you are. Thank you for stopping by my channel, and please visit me, thepersonalfreedomcenter.com or Vivian at viviangale.com.